Welcome back to the Coaching Life podcast. This is Pat Martin. I'm here with my friend, Coach Chris Stewart. Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, but you're not here with me. Remember that. We got to be pretty clear that we're practicing we're doing our part in social distancing here. So,
yeah, that's true. I'm aware of that.
In separate places again today. Yeah. But we are here we are here over the digital airwaves together. We're in fellowship, right?
Yeah. You know, I'm grateful that you're my partner in this journey that we've went off on, because I think it would be easy right now to in the situation that we're all living in here in the United States, and actually a lot of places across the world, just to kind of give up on some of these
no doubt
hobbies and things that we do that that we want to do to try to help people. So I appreciate your focus and your willingness to motivate me to keep doing these things.
Well, thank you. I don't know what to say to that.
Well, you don't have to say anything.
I'm glad we
can
keep
validate you.
Well, I'm thankful for the fact that we right. I'm thankful for the fact that we have the ability we have the equipment, the availability, to be able to get on and keep putting out this content. I'm really excited about the content we're going to give people today. So, and
yeah, I think it's very relevant.
Oh, no doubt,
for the situation that we're in.
Absolutely,
so, we can definitely use this to impact people today, and not just as we get
challenge
when we get
today.
Back to sports.
Yeah,
but, right now in the situation that we're in. So we have a special guest for you today, folks. Our guest today is a strength and agility trainer in southeastern Ohio, northwestern West Virginia. He obtained his master's degree in exercise science from Marshall University, where he also served as a biomechanics graduate assistant. And he's held internships with Marshall, Villanova, and Akron universities. And in addition to that, he holds multiple United States Powerlifting Association records in West Virginia. And I want to mention that because I think they're phenomenal. in the weight class of 90 kilograms, which is 198 pounds, he holds the squat record at 512 pounds, as well as the bench press record at 347 pounds.
Jeez.
And in the 181 pound weight class, he holds the squat record of 518 pounds and the deadlift record of 584 pounds. So very impressive numbers there for our guest today, our friend, Mr. Micaiah Branch. Micaiah, we appreciate you joining us today, man.
I appreciate you guys. You're a little kind with the special guest description, but I'll take it.
Yeah, you're definitely special, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
Well, we know, Micaiah, we know that you appreciate exercise and strength and agility training. And, one of the things that the coach and I set out to do when we started this podcast was help high school athletes understand what they needed to do to prepare themselves for the ability or the opportunity to play a college sport. And I guess the first thing I want to talk to you about today is how important do you think consistent strength and agility training is for high school athletes who are aspiring to play a college sport?
It's obviously I'm going to say very important, because with strength and agility, you're increasing muscle mass, you're increasing force production. And so what I see sports as you go up in levels, it's kind of like a strainer. Okay. So it's like the reason the NFL is the pinnacle of football is because as you go from middle school to high school, from high school to college, from college to the professional leagues, you're being strained out. little by little by little. And so the competition is higher. So as you get to the next level, people are outputting more force, they're more powerful, they're jumping higher, they're running faster. Each level in sports is a strainer. And so every level, it's weeding out little by little, or a lot, depending, if you look at the numbers. So people are becoming faster, they're stronger, they're more powerful, they're running faster, jumping further. And so lifting weights allows us to build more muscle fibers. So it decreases reaction times. So proprioceptive training, knowing where your body is in space. So being able to make that decision without not having to consciously think about it. So.
It sounds like what you're saying is, I mean, in my mind, well, really, I don't want to downplay skill or talent, natural ability, but as you elevate in sports levels from high school to college to, different levels of professional sport, you have to be stronger and faster than what you were at the previous level. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter what your ability or skill is.
It's the difference maker.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my favorite authors that I have read in the area of strength and conditioning, which I'm sure I know because you're a power lifter, there's no doubt that you've heard of him, Mark Ripto, who wrote Starting Strength. And I don't know, it's about 20 years ago, I picked up that book and I was just fascinated at the simplicity, his ability to explain everything, to explain all the lifts, the main priorities of squatting, deadlifting, power clean, overhead press, bench press, and rowing. And I one of the things I love about him, I just poured myself into everything I could find of Mark Ripto's stuff. And I found it fascinating the way he described exactly what you were saying in terms of athleticism, power, and strength, and how we can't necessarily increase a person's athleticism, that's something that God gives us. So you look out onto an open playground and you see the kids that are just gifted with athleticism and other ones who just are not. But he said what happens is as we grow older and as we develop, one of the things that we have found is that what comes with athleticism is this thing called power. And that's what you're seeing when you see a kid that can run fast or be explosive or lift a lot, and throw rocks really hard and things like that. You're seeing their power. And so he said the reason why strength training is so vitally important is because that is the one way that we can increase a person's power. So we may not be able to add to their athleticism, but if the building blocks of athleticism is power, we know we can add to their power by making them stronger. And so in essence, you are seeing someone appearing to becoming more athletic. They may not be getting more God-given gift of athleticism, but they look more athletic. They actually are more athletic because they've actually gotten stronger. And I just became a firm believer then of, okay, we got to make it a priority then to make all of our athletes stronger if we want to get better. So
because power, power is it involves a speed component and a strength component. So there's a curve to it. So if you think about it, athleticism a lot of time is based on time and strength. So how fast can you do something, and how strong are you when you do it?
Yeah. Well,
that's a good point. Go ahead, Coach.
I was just going to ask you another question. When you think about just athletes in general, across the board, not necessarily sport specific, baseball player, softball player, football player, a lot of times when you get into schools, you get people and coaches kind of, conflicting a little bit about what they believe their players should do based on the sport that they play. But just thinking about athletes in general, Is there a list of what you would say are must-do movements that every single, a swimmer, a golfer, a football player, a baseball player, a hockey player, every single person, a track athlete should incorporate into their workout program? What would you say are the main priorities in terms of movements and lifts?
Okay, so I'm going to explain it like how I program for athletes. First, for power development, I think every athlete should learn how to broad jump and vertical jump. And so from there, you can break it up, because in lifting, it revolves around flexion and triple extension. Okay, so triple extension of the ankles, knees, and the hips. And so broad jumps and vertical jumps, they both cover that. And then from there, you can take that into either a single leg broad jump, single leg vertical jump. You can add weights to it with dumbbells, barbells. In terms of strength, because all that's going to develop power.
Yeah.
In terms of strength, a universal exercise would be anything that involves single leg, because every single athlete, unless you're competitively fast walking, involves single leg. So if, like running, for example, you're in a single leg stance every millisecond. Jumping, 90% of the time, someone goes up for a dunk or a layup, you're jumping with a single leg. Throwing a baseball, you're pushing off of one leg and pivoting into the other. So any lunges, Bulgarian split squats, single leg glute bridges, so exercises that involve a single leg. And then from there, I have almost all my athletes squat and deadlift. It just depends on the variation.
Yeah.
Man, what a great answer.
That's excellent. Yeah.
That is good stuff.
If we have pauses, it's because I'm taking notes.
Well, let's get a little bit more focused with that question then, Micaiah, because for the most part, Coach and I are baseball and softball people. You're a softball person, aren't you, Coach? Is it fair to say that?
Who are you talking to?
You.
You talking to me? You calling me a softball person?
I'm just asking you if you are. I'm wondering if that's a fair classification.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've been strength training our softball team for the past 2 years, and then working with them as an assistant coach. So yeah, they would consider me a softball person.
Okay, good.
I don't know as much about softball, but I'm more of a baseball person in terms of my knowledge of the game. But yeah, I'll take that.
All right, good.
Classification.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't crossing a line there or anything.
No, you're not.
But Micaiah, in regards to baseball and softball players specifically, what movements would you, if you were coming up with a training program for a baseball or softball player, what movements would you incorporate into their workout program?
So I'll just explain. My mind is always thinking in terms of how I program, day to day. So I program upper body and lower body. And so for upper body, I always, for both workouts or however many workouts an athlete is coming to me for, we always do some kind of power development. And so just taking it back to the answer before, I'll do things such as, dumbbell vertical jumps. And there's 1,000 different variations that I can do with that. So I could do a single leg dumbbell lateral jump. And that's going to mimic, without getting too insane about how sports specific it is, that's going to be fairly close to what a person's going to be doing when they're throwing a baseball or a softball. Like yesterday, I was having people do dumbbell rotational lateral jumps. So as they jumped, it's a vertical jump, but they're also pushing laterally, so they're turning 90 degrees. And that just mimics, your foot and your hip rotating as you throw a baseball or softball. In terms of a strength movement, I like landmine presses. Eric Cressy has good informational why he does landmine presses. I'll have them do bench press too, but not as much. It's more like dumbbell floor press. But I like the landmine press because it allows the scapula to move rather than being in a fixed position.
What's a landmine press look like? If you were to explain it to somebody who's listening that can't picture it in their mind, or to give them a picture in their mind, what it might look like, what would that movement look like?
So what you can do to set it up is you can take a 45-pound plate, take your barbell, put one end in the center hole, and then it's kind of like a lever. So you're pressing it at, roughly a 45-degree angle, depending on where you're standing, at a vertical or a diagonal plane of motion, rather than a vertical press or a bench press that's a horizontal pressing movement. So that's an upper body strength movement I like to use. For lower body, it varies from sport to sport, but I train a lot of baseball and softball players, and we still squat and we deadlift, and that's just for overall body strength. And then, from there, still doing barbell weighted jumps, dumbbell weighted jumps. We might do med ball throws, like rotational throws for power. So that pretty much sums most of it.
Let's say someone reaches out to you and they want to have their child start lifting, not body weights, just they want their child, like their young child, to start lifting. Are there any requirements that you would have that maybe would prevent you from working with a child? For example, is there an age that you would prefer not to see a kid train with weights?
If there is, I have not encountered it yet. Everything's relative. So if I just take it back to basic movements, a lunge, a shoulder press, a front raise with a dumbbell, when they're that young, any stimulus you give them, they're going to respond to. So I can make a kid do 12 reps, 15 reps of something with a super light weight, and they may not even be super fatigued at the end of the set or even at the end of the workout. But because they're doing things they're not used to, the body's going to respond to that. Yeah. I can take a 5 or 6 year old and have them use a 5-pound dumbbell and make that dumbbell, I could use it for 20 different exercises. I could have them lunge with it. I could have them do curls with it. When they're that young, they don't have to be doing, they don't need to be dumbbell jumping and doing these spinning while they're jumping. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I basically, when a kid's that young, I do more of a bodybuilding approach. High reps, maybe just watching them to see how they respond after each set. If they're super gassed, I'm not going to say, okay, 30 seconds later, set 2. I'm going to give them a minute, let them recover, and then we'll do set 2. We'll go from there. With each kid, I always start at a basic level, and I teach them how to broad jump and vertical jump. And we might do that for weeks until they are doing it perfect. And sometimes I'll just say as the warm-up, okay, give me 3 broad jumps, and I'll just watch them. And if they're really sloppy with it, I'll talk to them about it, and I'll say, okay, hey, we've been doing this for 5 weeks now. This is a warm-up. Okay, and I'm not having them jump as far as they can. I'm having them maybe jump at 50%, 60%. And I explained to them, I'm saying, this is a warm-up, so every rep should be perfect. And it shouldn't be you falling onto your toes or you falling on your butt. And from there, we just, every kid's going to develop differently. And so I play it by ear as the kid develops.
That's great.
Hey, you said something there, Micaiah, that made me think of something. It's a question that I have and that I've tried to research, but I haven't really been able to get a good answer for. Maybe you might have some insight. And you said that when you're dealing with a younger kid, that you approach it like a bodybuilding approach. and you talked about using high reps. Is there a different, like, what is the difference between doing high reps and low weight and, heavy weight and low reps? Is there a threshold that you can get to? I guess the first question is, what is the difference? And the second question is, if, I don't know, in an example, if you're, squatting 300 pounds 5 times, could you squat 100 pounds 30 times and get the same, production?
Okay. So, there are two different curves. One is a percentage curve. So if we look at our absolute max, our 1 rep max, the reason it's our 1 rep max is because that's all we can do for 1 rep. And then there have been multitudes of studies conducted on this. Certain percentages should line up to roughly so many reps. Okay, so off the top of my head, I know 95% is something you could do for roughly 2 times. 90% is something you could do for roughly 4, 85% 6, 80% is roughly 8, and so on and so on. And then the other one is the speed strength curve, which I think we talked a little bit about earlier. As you approach your 1 rep max, it's going to be slower because it's your absolute max weight. As the weight decreases, the speed should increase. So it's roughly 50 or 60% of your 1 rep max is where your peak power production is going to be. And it's a very complicated answer that I'm trying to condense into a very short answer. But in terms of bodybuilding versus strength training is going to affect you more neurologically. And it's going to use your creatine phosphate system. And so it's very anaerobic in the sense that you're not going to use very much oxygen to recover. Whereas bodybuilding, it's more of a glycotic system, which hopefully most of the listeners have taken some kind of biology class, or otherwise they won't understand it too much. But it's going to affect you more muscularly. So they say anywhere between 8 and 12 reps, 6 to 15, somewhere in that range. Those are more bodybuilding, and that's going to affect you more muscularly, mechanically, because it's causing those fibers to contract over and over again. And so that's how we build more muscle. A lot of people think that during in-season training, if their kid isn't sore and tired, then they're not working out hard enough. But I have plenty of kids that are getting stronger training in season because we just limit how many reps overall they're doing. And so we're hitting them neurologically. And so they're not getting sore, most of the time, sore and too fatigued, so that they can still perform at a high level in their competitions.
Man, that's excellent.
I hope to the question.
You did. In fact, I'm gonna stay on that question for a second. So a kid walks into a gym, he walks into a rec center, a community center, and he sees all these guys. They walk into Planet Fitness, and he sees these guys with the big bulging chest and the big biceps. And this kid is an athlete at his high school, and he wants to get strong. And he looks and he sees one of these guys that looks like a bodybuilder, and he assumes that what he's doing is what he should do as well to get strong and get himself prepared for his upcoming basketball season. And so what he sees that bodybuilder doing is maybe laying down on the bench press and cranking out 5 sets of 15 reps, nice and slow, contracting it and making sure that he's sending every ounce of what his brain can think about to those pectoral muscles. And that kid thinks to himself, okay, in order for me to really get strong, I got to do 15 reps also. And I think that's maybe, Pat, is that one of the things that you're saying? There's so much confusion out there about what you should do based on what your goals are. And you're saying that, I think you're saying strength training is not what you see a bodybuilder doing. The way we should be training our athletes is not what you see a guy doing in that scenario, for example.
Yeah. So more than likely, if a kid is training bodybuilding style, they're probably getting slower. And that might not
Man,
be
that's a great point. I want to highlight that. Micaiah just said that if a kid is training bodybuilder style, you're getting slower, most likely, more than likely. And
More
that's
than
the
likely.
opposite of what you want to achieve in strength training.
Yeah, I won't say 100% of the time the kid's getting slower, because
Right.
there are some freak athletes out there that no matter what you throw at them, they're going to just be freak athletes.
But again, you're pointing back to that natural athleticism, those kids who have those freak athletic bodies, and that's not the majority of people. The majority of people on our high school teams are not that kid.
Yeah, and so don't get me wrong, like, you want to incorporate some hypertrophy bodybuilding into the grand scheme of working out, because here's the example. I'll give you two. One is a collegiate football training system. Okay, these kids, all they play is football. So in the beginning of the year-long worth of training, the first few months, they're going to be doing some higher end volumed workouts, because they're resetting after the bowl season, and they're trying to get their athletes to, one, have a higher conditioning level for lifting weights, and two, they're trying to build some extra muscle mass. And then as they transition into the summer, they're going to start incorporating more lower volume, high strength level workouts. So like squats, 88, 90, 92%. And then as they start transitioning into the competitive season, like camp season, when they just started up camp and they're getting ready for the season, they'll start transitioning into power and they're going to lower the overall percentages. They'll keep the reps low, but increase their power production. For a high school athlete, that is not going to be ideal, because most athletes are either playing 2 or 3 sports, or they're playing softball or baseball 8 months out of the year, stopping for maybe a basketball season, and then they're going back into softball or baseball again. And so for me, that's not ideal. I can't.
Yeah, there's never an off
them.
season for those kids, right?
There's never an off season. So for instance, I had a girl. She just finished. This was a month or two ago. She just finished basketball season. So I'm telling you, that next workout that we had, I destroyed her because it's my only chance to get this hypertrophy in. Well, 2 days later, I had her dad texting me. He's like, "Hey, why is my daughter pitching with shredded legs?" And so in my head, I didn't know if he meant muscular shredded or just like wrecked her legs.
Yeah.
And I wrecked her legs. And so I explained to him, like, "Hey, this is my only chance to change the stimulus for a little bit. Now a month of off-season training is not going to add a whole lot, but it's different, and it may add a little bit. But even during that time, my main lifts, like my squat and my deadlift, were not going above 3 reps, because I still want her to be maximally-ish strong. So even during that time, we're still trying to get stronger. We're just adding volume in terms of Bulgarian split squats, lunges, lunge variations, maybe upping the jumps and the power exercises by a couple reps." So
that's great.
Sorry.
It's a lot of information there. I think what I would say is, even me, and I'm not a, I don't know a lot about strength training by any means. I believe in it and I'm supportive of it. And, I've put some time into researching it, but I'm still just when you're talking there, it's just my mind's just going 100 miles per hour trying to keep up with what you're saying. And I feel like a lot of people out there listening might be scared right now of, hey, man, this is tough. This is complex. And what I would say to that is, yeah, I mean, it is. But it's important. And it's as complex as any skill that you practice in a given sport. And, we have people out there that spend so much time researching and studying and practicing and getting better at instructing, kids and athletes on skill development in baseball and basketball and football. We need to spend that time
and money,
in strength and agility development.
Yes,
and money. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, people spend hundreds of dollars. Like, for example, the guy that you maybe just mentioned. I don't know. We don't need to mention names, but I'm sure they spend a lot of money sending their daughter to hitting instructors, pitching instructors, things like that. Listen, there's a reason why guys like Micaiah are out there. There's a reason why, like my son is studying exercise physiology right now. He's a junior in college at Alderson Broaddus University. There's a reason why people are going into this field. It's because we realize athletes need this training, I would say, more than they need a hitting instructor, more than they need a pitching instructor. They need to learn how to get strong. And that's the reason why, look, Pat, you say it's complex. Yeah, it's complex. And that's why, folks, you need a guy like Micaiah. You got to go out and find him. You got to hire him. You got to say, hey, work with my kids.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Well, so I have three thoughts. The first thought is the dad that texted me, he was okay with it once I explained to him the reason.
Absolutely.
He's all about me letting me do what I think is best. The second thought is I had a professor when I was studying exercise science, and he had a point that has stuck with me for the last 4 years. And it's why you have different doctors. It's why you have a heart specialist, a kidney specialist. I could go on and on. There's so much information in the strength world. You can't be, let's say, for instance, a dedicated doctor or a dedicated teacher or a dedicated whatever, and be able to put the necessary time into studying strength and conditioning and being good at it. That's why I tell people you come to me, is because I've put all my resources into learning this one specialty.
Right.
And then just going back to the, why kids need strength training over, maybe hitting lessons or pitching lessons. It's because if you buy a Corvette and you don't give it gas, the Corvette's got the ability, but it can't go anywhere. So if you can hit a ball, but you can only hit it infield, you don't have the gas to get it out of the infield. So that's why you come to me, because I'm giving you the gas to drive your Corvette.
That's an outstanding metaphor. Absolutely.
And we're done. We've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish today. I think we can call her quits.
No, man, we got this coronavirus thing that we're dealing with. People got to figure out what they can do. I've seen on your social media. By the way, Micaiah is really active on Facebook, and you've been posting things for people to do as just a means for you to reach out and serve. I mean, this is all free that you're putting out here on Facebook. You said, on a few days ago, you've been asking yourself what you could do to help make a difference, and you may not be a great motivational speaker, but you have this gift that you've been given, and this you're a professional at this. I mean, this is actually your career, and so you've been putting out workouts, strength and conditioning workouts for people to do at home. One of the questions that keeps swirling around in my mind, and I don't know the answer to it, and I'm glad that we have you on today, because I'm sure that it's something that my athletes that I coach are thinking about, and I know that's something that a lot of athletes out there are probably thinking about right now, and that is this. They've been pretty consistent and passionate about getting in the weight room at least 3 times a week ever since when the fall off season began. For us, it was October 1st. All of a sudden now, they're confined to their home. Many of these people don't have a gym at their house. All they have maybe is a treadmill and no dumbbells, no barbells, no squat rack, nothing. My question is, for someone who's been in a gym building strength consistently, and they're committed to that and they want to continue building strength, during this COVID-19 pandemic where we are all quarantined to our own homes without any of that equipment, is it even possible for these athletes to continue to build strength without those same resources? And if it is possible, what do they do? What do you recommend? And if it's not possible, how do you encourage them? How do you console them?
So the body responds to a stimulus. So if you go and run a mile and you're out of breath and you ran it in 7 minutes or 8 minutes or 6 minutes, whatever, your body is going to do what it needs to do, increase cardiac output, et cetera, to become better at running. So the next time you interact or, that stimulus comes, your body's going to be more prepared for it. So when it comes to strength training, it depends on what you're weak at. So for instance, I'm training people over FaceTime right now, which is not ideal, but I've made it work. And I'm focusing on things that I normally don't get around to, or at least not enough. So I'm thinking of like little exercises to increase core stability. So one thing I do, and this is, an age-old exercise, is side plank. But I do a side plank different than probably most people do a side plank. And I got this from Dr. Stuart McGill, which is a spine specialist. And I'll do side planks for 10 seconds, rest for 5, and do it, for 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds in a row, and then switch sides. And the reason I'll do something like that is because for an athlete, you don't need stability in a side plank for a minute long. Like, your body is not, especially in baseball, and softball, it's a quick move, either hit, throw, whatever, that you need stability for an instance. So that's why we do it for short periods, but then we do it over and over again. You still get a little bit of the constant endurance or repetitive endurance portion. So we'll do things like that. If they have dumbbells, I'll do exercises that are not the same, like different shoulder variations, pressing. But one thing I've done is, for instance, I have a 11-year-old girl. She has one dumbbell in her house. So what we did is we did a goblet squat where we held in the bottom position for 3 seconds. So it's challenging your core stability and your hip stability. And then I'll have her curl it down and up and then stand up. And so the curling is going to challenge her upper back more and her lower back, because it's going to challenge her to stay stable through that curling motion. So there are ways to get stronger, but it's not going to be maximal strength stronger, if that makes sense. Yeah. And if you want to get maximal strength stronger, go find a rock you've never picked up before and pick it up. I mean, that's just strongman.
Do it the way they used to do it back in the ancient of days, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even still, they still in like the Arnold Strongman. Yeah. They had multiple events where you're picking up stones and pressing them overhead, or picking up stones and setting them on something. So, that's it sounds barbaric.
It's primitive.
If you really want to get stronger in ways you've never been challenged before, that's going to challenge your upper back, your hips, your core. It's a full body exercise. And then if you want a power exercise, other than just jumping in place, pick up a smaller stone and throw it.
And then go get it, and throw it back.
It really does. It sounds ridiculous, but if you don't have equipment and you want to get stronger, those are ways.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
Absolutely.
I have a friend whose son is picking up weights for tractor supplies in their barn. So that's, and they're pressing them and just getting very basic. But weight, your body does, all it knows is weight is weight. If you pick up weight, your body's going to recognize that it's a weight.
Yeah. There are ways to make it happen. You just got to figure it out. You got to get creative. Go jack up your car and take the tire off of it, press it a little bit. Find some ways.
What would you say to somebody that has started weightlifting or, strength training over the last, maybe they started in last winter and they've really grown and they've really done well lifting weights, and now they're going to be going through a period of time where maybe they're not able to do as much as what they did, and when they finally get back to the weight room here, hopefully sooner than later, they're not nearly as strong as what they expect to be, and obviously that's going to be discouraging for them. How would you, as a trainer, you might experience that yourself as people come back to you once the pandemic clears up a little bit, and they may not be able to do the same type of things that they were able to do before. How do you handle something like that?
I just explain to people that if your body's not using it, it's going to lose at least some of it. So if you can get in the weight room one time a week or, twice a week, it's better than 0 times. And so I'll explain to a kid, if they want to take off, for basketball season, because that's their primary sport, and then they'll come back when baseball season starts, I'll look at it as, okay, you're working out 2 times a week right now, and you're going to be gone for 3 months. Let's just say 12 weeks. That's 24 workouts that you missed. So as much as you can get in the weight room, or, during this time, as much as you can train things that you're not used to training and maintain strength in those areas, you'll maintain your overall strength. So even if it's 1 time a week and it's a full body exercise, that's better than not getting anything in at all. Yeah. But it's got to be, though, what's the word? Intentional. So you can't go to the weight room and just expect, well, I'm here, I'm going to maintain this. If squat is your goal for that day, you still need to hit 80 to 90% ish of a squat if you're only working out 1 day a week. That's very, very basic of an explanation, but it holds true to the point.
Sure.
Outstanding. I think what we've talked about today is going to be relevant for a while. I mean, it's going to be, obviously going to be relevant for a long time, but particularly right now when people are really, they're really excited about the work they've been doing, and then now they've gotten to a place where maybe they're not able to do as much. And, to hear you explain, Micaiah, that there are ways. It's just a matter of getting creative and being intentional about it. And if you can't necessarily find a way because you don't have the resources at your own home, then do what the Navy SEALs say and make a way. If you can't, either find a way or make a way. So
good stuff. You have anything you would like to add, Micaiah, to everyone listening out there that we maybe not covered?
Oh man, you guys have asked me these questions. I've been going on tangents for so long. I don't think I'm capable of thinking about what I did and did not miss.
Hey, why don't you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you? What's your favorite social media? If you want to give your email address or anything else, by all means, we want to promote you here to the 4 or 5 listeners that we have on our podcast. So.
I'm sure there's more than 4 or 5. I'm one of them, so I guess I'll take advice. If you want to look up stuff for kids, like how I'm training them, the workouts that I've been posting, I call them a QWOD, so quarantine workout of the day. If you want to find that stuff, it's just Micaiah Branch Strength and Conditioning. Micaiah is spelled Micaiah for the people that are wondering. And then if you just want to see me lift stuff, that's Instagram at CoachMick_MIC. My wife likes to get on to me for posting weightlifting stuff all the time, but that's like,
hey.
That's what I do.
Yeah, right.
90% of the time, I'm either training somebody or training myself. So that's what those 2 areas consist of all the weightlifting stuff I do. And occasionally I'll post a picture of a cat and and my wife, and so
You got to keep both of those happy.
You got to stay
Oh, yeah.
balanced.
That's right.
oh, very much.
Hey, we'll make sure we put all this information in the show notes as well, so that if people weren't able to get that, if you just look in the underneath the title and look in the show notes, we'll make sure we have all your info in there. So,
Well, I have one question to Pat. How were you pronouncing my name when you messaged me earlier? Because I asked my wife when I sent you back how I would try to relay to somebody how to say it. She said, yeah, that sounds about right. But I was curious what you were saying in your head.
Micaiah.
Yeah, one more syllable in there.
that's just the Meigs County coming out at him.
Now,
Yeah.
hey, listen here, there, Coach. I have always referred to him as Micaiah. Okay. Someone else that I talked to referred to him as Micaiah, and then I thought, oh man, now I don't know how to pronounce his name. So
I have a funny story. I had one of the teachers I was a graduate assistant for. I taught the lab class for him, and so occasionally he would come in and we would do things together. But I told him my name was Micaiah, and he didn't come into the lab for the first time until like week 3 maybe, and he called me Micah, and I never corrected him because I was thinking, we're 3 weeks in, we're at a point of no return. He's just going to have to think my name's Micah for the next 2 years. And so that's what happened.
actually, I have actually heard some people call you Micah as well.
Yeah. It depends on how much I interact with them. And if I'm going to interact with them a lot, I might correct them. Otherwise, I'll just think my name's Micah.
Hey, my dad's name is Mike, and for years he went to church with a guy who thought his name was Bruce. And I don't know how you get those two names mixed up, but my dad never corrected him. So for about 30 years, until this guy died, he called my dad Bruce. And I said, well, Dad, why don't you ever correct him? Tell him your name's Mike.
Hey. So, Micaiah, we have a question that we ask all of our guests. At least we have so far, and we want to ask you if you could give us one, or if you have multiple, but at least one favorite memory from your days of playing youth sports. I just realized that on the script here that I sent, it says favorite memory from your days of playing youth baseball. That's not what it was supposed to read. So,
well, yeah, it's funny because you sent that, and I was like, man, baseball. I played baseball, but it was not my primary sport. So I was racking my brain for a baseball memory. And I played up until 8th grade. So, I have some, but the primary one, and this doesn't even have to do with being on the field, was I think I was in 3rd grade, and we were the Mason Bulldogs, and we were a horrible team. We did not win a game all season until the very last game. And do you guys, you know how Middleport baseball fields are constructed? Like, one of them, there's a huge hill. And I can remember my dad promising me if we won, any game that we won, we would go out for ice cream. And I can remember that very last game, we won, and we were standing in a huddle. And I yelled up at my dad. I was like, hey, Dad, we can finally go get ice cream. And he is 100 yards away, if that, maybe 70. And I'm yelling across the field up on this hill for everybody to hear that we finally won so we can get ice cream. And so
that's what it's all about.
And that it wasn't, wasn't athletically related. But,
Never is.
I had a couple funny moments kind of like that. One of my favorite youth football memories was it was a game where we were tied with this team with 5 seconds left. And this is in 5th grade, so you don't really throw the ball in 5th grade, at least not at that time. We threw a Hail Mary to try to win this game, which is in youth football is like 20 yards. And so we throw it, it gets picked off. And I'm just standing there because I literally thought our guy had caught the ball and we had just won the game, until I saw him get about 30 yards in the opposite direction. And I realized that's not my teammate. From the opposite side of the field, I took off. And I think I tackled him maybe on the 5-yard line. Like, he was just about to score. And so after the game, my dad was, saying, what in the world were you thinking? And I told him, I was like, I thought our own guy caught it. And then I, proceeded to tell him, because I'm confident now, but I was even cockier kid when I was that age. And I was like, yeah, but I knew I could catch him. So, yeah, those are probably my primary youth competitive sports memories.
That's awesome.
Good deal. Everybody we have on to answer that question usually has a story that you said something a minute ago that just stuck with me. You said it's not athletic related at all. A lot of the stories that we have that are memories from our youth sports days actually are not related to actually playing the game. It has something to do with like the moment you had there with your dad and shouting across the field and things like that. So
yeah. That's probably because most of the stuff that we learn when we play sports aren't really lessons that help us in that sport more so than they help us in life.
Yeah. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why they're so great.
No doubt.
Well, hey, Micaiah, it's been great having you on. We really appreciate having you, taking time out of your day to meet with us. And I hope everyone out there enjoyed the conversation that we had today. And if you're out there and you're sitting around and you're wondering, how you can respond to this event of the COVID-19 pandemic, I hope that you can use our conversation today with Micaiah to motivate you and to put you in a direction that you're ready to go onto the field or the court or whatever it is when you finally get the opportunity to do that again. Coach, good talking to you.
I appreciate you guys.
It was really great talking to you, Micaiah. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you guys.